Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Jared and you're watching 3D HP. I got goodies in the mail the other day, really cool. Creality 3D sent me out this really cool white hat and this nice tight black shirt. It's a 3X and I guess the sizes overseas versus the US are a little bit different because it's tight on me. Yes, I probably have been eating too many cookies and or whatever else, but it's a little bit tight, but it fits good. It's a really nice shirt. I really like it. Thank you very much, Creality. And then Ryan from McEwen 3D just sent me out a flexible extruder. I have 6 other of his extruders on my CR10s and my other Ender 3s that I bought from him over the last 3.5 years. I love them. Now I have the new Ender 3, which has a plastic extruder on it. And I asked him if he'd like to sponsor this video, and he was kind enough to send me out his flexible extruder like I have on all my other Enders, or my Enders and CR10s. So now we're going to put it on this one. The extruder that comes on this machine is plastic. Plastic works, it will break, it's not that great. It would suck if you're in the middle of a big print or just printing anything in general and then an arm broke or something broke and you lose your print. One thing Creality did do this time that was nice is where the filament goes into the arm to feed the extruder, they put a brass insert. That way the plastic over time doesn't cut the arm and cause it to fail. That's wonderful they have that brass insert, but still back to the original problem, it's plastic. And plastic over time breaks. So we're going to upgrade it with a metal one. There's a lot of great metal extruders out there that you can buy from different places that work perfectly fine. Why I like the one from McEwen 3D better, which I'll show you a close-up here in the middle. On the inlet side, it has a PTFE tube that's tapered at the end. That runs all the way up to the extruder gear. On the outlet side, there's a steel shaft that screws in that goes all the way up to the gear. So now you have... on the feed path and the exit path, you've got a tube that's close to the gear that will not allow the filament to back up and come out. So if you're printing flexible filaments like TBU, for example, it will not back up. And with an extruder, with a Bowden setup, yes, you can print flexible filaments perfectly fine. I've never had an issue yet with it. It works fine. And then as another upgrade, I got an all steel gear. It's a hardened steel gear with many tiny little teeth on it, which bite the filament much better than the one that's supplied with it. It comes with, I believe it's made out of aluminum. It has a small extruder gear that comes in the kit. I got an additional gear that he sells on his website that I have on all my printers. It works perfectly fine. So we're going to do some upgrading today, and let me show you what came in the package. I'll give you a close-up on it, and then we'll start building. So here's the extruder all laid out. It appears to be anodized. It's kind of a golden color. It's very pretty, nice to look at. Here's the outlet side where I was talking about, where it's got the small shaft that runs up to the extruder gear. And then the arm, which has the inlet side, the PTFE, that runs all the way up. You can see it's tapered, and it runs all the way up to the wheel. And then the gear would be on the other side. And then we got all the screws, springs, washers that are necessary. And yes, that was my cell phone telling me I have a message. My wife wants me to change the message and I haven't done it yet. Here's all steel gear, which has one set screw. And of course the set screw goes in on the flat spot on the stepper motor to bite it. But you can see all the little teeth. These things work wonderful. But yes, over time they will eventually wear down. Then I simply loosen up the set screw and I move the gear up or down to a clean spot. And it works perfectly fine. Here's the one that's supplied in the kit. This I haven't used, but I have plenty of them that are extra. Now, on all my printer stock, my extrusion multiplier in S3D is set at 98. With this all steel gear, I've had to change it and put it down at 95, and then I'm printing perfectly fine. You'll have to recalculate your E-straps. Whenever you replace an extruder and you change out a gear, that may be a different size. You always have to refigure your E-steps. And then I got a blow pop. Cool. Actually, I got 2 blow pops. My wife already took one, but I got 2 cherry blow pops. That was very nice of him. I have a ton of stickers here that are very nice. He sent me another PTFE cutter, which is cool. Looks like it's got a little hanger on the back, I guess, where you can hang it up somewhere, hook it on something. And I got a nice thank you letter. It's very well packaged. He got it out to me right away. And I'm going to be using my wrenches. These are my wrenches of choice. I got these off Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below. I love these because they have a handle on them and you can turn them without fighting the little tiny L-shaped Allen wrenches that come with the printers. I mean, they work in a pinch, but I prefer something with a longer handle. Unless you have to get into a tight spot, then of course I would use the other ones. So let me get the printer set back up here. And one other thing. It has a very detailed piece of paper here that explains how everything goes together, how to hook it all up. It's got their web address. And of course, if you ever have any trouble, which you won't, you can contact them and they'll explain everything to you. This is very nice. Okay, the first thing you want to do is to heat your hot end up to your normal printing temperature, whether it be 200, 205, or 210. Once it reaches that temperature, squeeze your lever, feed a little bit of filament through your hot end, and then pull back quickly and completely remove your filament. And then cool down your printer. Set it to cool down and cool down. Once that's happened, take off the blue gear that comes on it. It just sits on there. It's got a key on it where it's slotted. Set that aside. Take off your little clip there, and once again it goes flying. Holding your PTFE in the cup link. Squeeze in the lever, pull out your PTFE tube, which is being difficult. Well, my hands must be oily. Take the wrench to it, I'll just unscrew it. Normally the tubes pull right out, but my hands, I got lotion on them. Must be a little bit slick. Just let that dangle out of the way. And let's start taking things apart. So unscrew your arm. And be sure your printer's turned off also while you do this. You can disconnect your plug on your stepper motor. Now hang on to that arm. You take out that first screw. It's got a spring on it. You don't want it to go flying. Then you'll have the spring set screw. Set those parts aside. And before you get to the last screw, you're going to want to hang on to the stepper motor so you don't want it to fall. Now if I can find the correct wrench. Yes, I have a Titan extruder in the background on my T-Bo Tarantula Pro that's clicking. Having some issues. I printed a mask on my T-Bo Tarantula Pro. Actually, I printed two. The first one was on my Hypercube. And the second one on the T-Bo. My slicer looked like it would fit fine. But I got all the way to the top. The mask was almost done. And I looked like I still had another 1.5 inches to go. But no, I didn't. It ran out. So I dropped the model through the bed of my slicer on S3D all the way down to the very top and re-sliced it. I'm just trying to get it right so I can reprint it. Okay, once those screws are out, let's see, I've got to take that clip off there, get the wire out of the way. You can just pull that down. You can hold that in your hand. Take off that gear. It's got 2 set screws on the stock one. I'm going to go ahead and put the new gear on for now, and then I can always adjust it later. I'll keep the set screw on the top. Be sure that it lines up with a flat spot on the gear. And be sure you don't get it too tight and strip it, because then you'll never get it out. If you ever need to change it or reposition it, just snug it and stop. Hold the motor back up in place. The stepper motor, as you can see there, around the center motor shaft, that's raised area there, it looks like a washer. That will go right in place and sit there. And you can just hold it in place. And you can line your holes up to put your first screw in, which is an M3 black screw. And just snug it up. Get the other bolts fit in. Okay, the one where the arm goes, that's an M18. Next, grab your arm, the M18 screw, and drop it in. And of course it's not lining up. So let's move on to the other screws. We'll come back to it. There's 2 M25 screws. Put double washers on each one. Notice I can just screw in hand tight. I can feel them grabbing. And of course I always grab the wrong wrench. I'm sure that probably happens to a lot of people. And just snug them up. Do not get them tight. Just get them snug. You don't want to over tighten them and break them. You don't want to strip out the aluminum. And they're all snugged up. Next, we're going to grab our new spring, a little bolt on it. You look at the paperwork to make sure I put that on the right direction. Ouch. And it went flying. That's normal. And you line it up and then run the screw right here in to grab it. The paperwork that comes explains exactly how much tension you need. You don't want to get it too tight. And then take your PTFE tube that's feeding and make sure it's not touching the gear. You might have to pull it back out a little bit. And the same on the other side. Double check to make sure this fitting is not touching the gear or the wheel. Let me grab my glasses and double check how close they are. Yeah, they're pre-built. Bryan goes over all these and double checks them, so they all should be fine, but always check them. Tension looks good. Since in my prior video I just replaced the Capricorn tube with new fittings, I'm going to go ahead and use the fitting that I have for Capricorn. Let me unscrew the one that's on here. Keep that, that's perfectly good. And as I mentioned earlier, the reason I didn't remove the PTFE, my hands are too greasy and I couldn't pull it out. And just give that a slight snug. Doesn't have to be tight, just barely snug it. Put your blue clip back on. Keeps the PTFE from accidentally pulling out. You wouldn't want that to happen, have spaghetti going everywhere. And then we're going to get an extra zip tie. We'll zip tie this right here. I don't have one with me here. I got to get one out of the drawer. We'll zip tie this up to keep the cable because this new extruder doesn't have a place to hold the wire. So we'll put one in there. And then, like I say, double check your E-steps. And the gear that I put in, I preset it down a little ways. And if you've done this multiple times, you roughly know where it goes. It's got a lot of teeth. It's perfect where it's at. So that's perfect. Hook up your stepper motor again, which I didn't have to disconnect that, but since I had it in my hand, moving it around, you don't want to rip your cord or break it. That's why I disconnected it. So we'll load some filament up, or after the video's over here, I'll load up some filament. Put your wheel back on. I will go on the slicer and I'll set it back up to 95 on my extrusion multiplier and S3D, and I'll be good to go. But based on what printer you're putting this on and what slicer you're using, you have to refigure your E-steps. So that's pretty cool. And we have, like I say, we have these extra fittings that came with it. They're springy. They've got metal teeth in them. Yep, these are good fittings. And I've got the other stock extruder wheel here that came for the stepper motor. I'll keep that. That's perfectly good. There's nothing wrong with it. The stock Crowley one I have here. Take a zip tie. Let's just zip tie this end up. Keep the cable up out of the way. I usually come up here and I zip tie it next to the extruder. Don't get it too tight. You don't want to break your wires. Like I say with anything, just snug it up. Just enough to hold it in place. Clip it off, and you're good to go. And that's it. It's just that easy to replace your extruder from McEwen 3D. Like I say, it's a Flexi Plus the one I used, and I bought an all steel gear to go with the kit. Works great. I love them. That's why I have them on all my other Creality machines. And like I say, in printing flexibles, there's no problem with that extruder. I've had no issues with it whatsoever on a Bowden setup. And something I said in a prior video I want to be corrected on. When I replaced the bed springs on this, I said to take the stock ones, throw them in the trash. No, don't do that. Whenever you have good parts, always save them. Buy a little, go to Home Depot or Lowe's, buy those little drawers that you put the parts in. Keep extra parts. Put them in bags. You never know when you're going to build something or you're going to need a part. So if you have a good part that's not damaged or broke, keep it. Do not throw it away. Something will come up. You never know when you're going to need it. So I just want to stand corrected. Always keep your good parts. Unless they're broke, throw them away. If they can be saved, salvaged, fixed, you know, you might want to keep them. You never know when you're going to need them. So that's about it. Oh, down below in the description, I'll have a link to McEwen 3D's website, where you can find them out on Facebook. I'll have links to Creality. I have a lot of affiliate links. There's a lot of cool discounts on some of those sites. There's different ways you can help out me and my channel. But number one, I would say please like, subscribe, share the video. Thank you for watching, everybody, and happy printing. Take care. check out the intro at the end. It's a lot like the first one, but it's slightly different.